right, so the Z is currently in the air. We got the, trying to get you up there. We got the engine support fixture in place because I'm pulling the oil pan down, and it's very tight down here between the steering rack and the pan. So I've lifted the engine up several inches, hoping that we won't have any trouble there. Got all the bolts out of it now, and what Matt is working on is replacing our shoddy lower ball joints that we figured out last week were nice and just sloppy as hell. So he's already working on this side. These things are wickedly tight. So I got my ball joint separator on it, and it would not give up the ghost. So we just pulled the whole tie rod end and everything off so we can just press it. Looks like that's gonna work good. Whoa, you're gonna press that all the way down from there?
No, I'm gonna put one of these in it, but I'm just getting it down.
Why don't you stack, like, you're so far away. You might just want to lift the whole platform up another slot, because it's not gonna reach. Okay, that'll help. That'll help. This just pops out.
Yeah.
And just pry it out, and then that one twists.
Oh, I was just gonna hit it right on top, just like that.
Oh, that does not look very stable.
That's how Mike and I have done these before.
Okay. Well, this is gonna take you forever to pump that thing down to that point, so holler at me when you get there. So while he's working on that, I'm working on pulling the pan. I was gonna report a little earlier in the week about the breaking up issue. Someone in the forum mentioned something about checking the grounds on the MS3X card. And I'm like, grounds, huh? I didn't do any grounds. The MS3X card is apparently just plug and play. You just put it on the motherboard for the MS3, and it's got 2 ribbon cables that plug into it. And I thought, you know, that's it as far as the module is concerned. You don't really have to modify the rest of the module. So it never occurred to me that this module might require power and ground. I assumed it just shared the same. So when someone mentioned grounds, I went back and I looked at the diagram, saw that there actually is 5 circuits that come off of the DB37 connector at the MSX card. So I added those 5 grounds to it, took it for a test drive. Still, it's a little too soon to say everything's better, but it's definitely improved the situation for sure. I still feel like a little bit of misfiring, but I also noticed we're really rich up at the top end, because we haven't been up there in a long time, and all the cells have kind of changed. Oh, yes, I'm missing good stuff here. Got a little rocky, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, here, you can't have it hanging over the edge like that.
No.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. You're still hanging over the edge. Look, let me help. So you can put this diagonal like that, and then you can use that edge like that.
Okay.
Because now it can't wobble.
Yeah, okay.
I'm really not loving this strategy. It shouldn't wobble that much. Hopefully it don't take that much to get it out of there. I'm gonna avert my eyes. It worked.
Scary!
Sketchy as fuck. So
That's not the first sketchy thing we've done to the Z.
I know.
Remember that time Jackson almost got crushed by a transmission?
Yeah, but now we have a shop with equipment. But anyway,
doesn't make us any less like the goons we are.
So I'm gonna start prying the oil pan off. We're gonna get the oil pan off and replace the gasket and try to find where that snap ring came from that we found in it last week. I ended up determining that most of the little bits we took out of it were not like chunks of metal. It was just like carbon shit. I mean, I was able to just crush it up. So really the only 2 parts came out of it, and those are the snap ring and that little metal threaded, like looks like a thread of steel. Yeah. And then we know there's a washer in the pan still. So
but who knows if this pan's ever even been pulled since 1983, so no telling where that stuff came from, and hopefully it's not from us.
Yeah, and that shit could have been just rattling around in that pan since the day we brought it home. So we're not really that worried about it. None of it looks like lower end or bottom end pieces. The wrist pins in this engine are press fit, so there's no snap rings or rings involved with that. So we don't really know what they could be, but we're gonna look while we have the pan down. But main objective is fix the oil leak that is leaving stains everywhere. We don't want to get kicked off the track. Yep. And just make sure everything's all right.
Ball joints and get a little tune in there.
All right, so the moment has come. The oil pan's coming down. I've already got it kind of loosened up. I'm pretty stoked right now. It's kind of like, meeting these rods for the first time is kind of like meeting a celebrity, you know?
They've taken us through so much.
All right, will you take this? Okay.
Let's get a shot of the undercarriage real quick before we go over there.
I'm gonna get my phone camera out to get some better footage of the engine itself.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah. I hope we don't find anything troubling in here.
No, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, okay.
What a beast.
Oh, that's real. There's a bunch of little specks of something in there. What's all that? That's probably just chunks of gasket, I'm guessing. See all that black shit? Move your hand, dude. You're right in front of the camera.
I know, I'm trying to pick some of it up.
See those black chunks?
Yeah, it looks like it.
It might just be sludge, honestly.
That's plastic, I think.
I see. That might just be like old gasket material.
Yeah.
It broke? It broke?
Yeah, it broke.
Okay.
Here's the infamous washer.
There's the washer. Wipe it off. Let's get an idea of what color it is. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now we're getting into some shit.
What is that?
It's aluminum. It's got a smooth finish on one side. Like maybe it's a piston skirt. I wonder if that's the piston skirt. We should be able to get a good eye on the pistons from underneath. These have really long pistons.
Just black chunks. Oh, my glove ripped.
And so I bet it would still run if it like broke one of the legs of a big piston. Alright, so there's more like probably just this black shit. It's like pebbly stuff.
Oof.
So we got the washer. There's some little crumbly sludge shit way back here by the drain plug. I think this is just like plastic, like from some kind of guide, chain guide maybe. And there's a bunch of these little bits.
So we identified our mystery piece of metal.
Sorry. Oil bath.
Steve-O's all covered in oil, and so am I.
Where'd it go?
It's right here.
Oh. So yeah, so this little guy right here, it's a very easily distinguished piece of aluminum casting. And you can see on the side of it, it's got like some vertical wear lines. So it
Nice shot of that. Yep.
So it definitely looks like something that had some kind of reciprocating motion. So then we started hunting for a broken piston, and we found one. We have a broken piston. You can kind of see the bottoms of them. And if you look right up here at number 6,
See if I get a good clean shot of that.
you can see how the skirt is missing that chunk.
It's kind of hard to see, but
I think we can get stock L28 pistons for pretty cheap.
But this little chunk right here is actually broken off the bottom of the piston.
So it's going to cause imbalance of the rotating assembly when you have one piston that's, you know, at least something some
Right.
amount lighter.
And not to mention if it's already broken and we're going to be pushing this thing to the limits in early March.
Yeah, I mean, if it cracked here, it could be cracked somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if we blow a piston, we're going to destroy the block.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we need to
talk about pulling the motor
address
apart.
that. Holy shit. I don't know.
I mean, we can't do it tonight, but
We could get started tonight and just push it on a fucking trailer.
yeah.
We got to figure that out. Yeah. But one thing's for sure, we have a broken piston. We found this in the pan. We were going to just keep running the car.
Yeah, I
just
know.
like it
Holy
sits.
shit.
But it's better to know.
Yeah.
Now we're faced with pull the bottom end apart, or at least pull that one piston
Right.
out, and replace the piston, or
Replace
risk-
piston.
risk
That's it.
blowing
Yeah.
the engine.
That's the option.
And we're not ready for the 2JZ yet. We still have to spend.
We got some.
another,
We got some time to spend on that one.
1,000 or plus, and then just tons of time that it's going to take to do that. There's no
Yeah.
way.
So
So we're going to be replacing that piston, right?
yeah, we'll be replacing the piston.
I bet we can get a stock L28et piston for $60.
Yeah.
If we can find it.
Let's find out.
All right, so after much deliberation and consideration, we've come up with a plan.
We're putting pistons in the L28.
We're gonna replace the pistons. We found on Z-Car Depot, we found a set of just stock, I guess they're original style pistons. I don't know if they're actually Nissan. It just says cast pistons for a 280ZX L28E 81383. So these are basically the same pistons that the non-turbo counterpart would use on this car. We can't really source anything in the same kind of price range for turbo pistons. Actually, we haven't even seen a set for turbo pistons, but they're still dished pistons. And the pistons from turbo to non-turbo, as far as I know, is the only difference is turbo has dished tops and non-turbo don't. But in 82 and 83, I believe they were all dish tops, so the compression ratio should be similar. It's not a great piston. It's not an upgrade really, but it's not broken.
A downgrade.
Yeah, possibly they're shittier than the ones that are in it. But we're pretty sure we can get the pistons out of this thing in a pretty timely manner, and I imagine we'll have the other pistons in about a week, give or take. So right now, Matt's gonna finish up the second ball joint, and I'm going to get this thing ready for removal of the cylinder head. We're just gonna do it all in the car. So we already got the pan off. That's part of the job done. And surely we're not gonna get it all done tonight, but we'll get a lot of it done anyway while we wait for parts. And I'll probably just leave the car and trailer stashed here at the shop until then, so I don't gotta just cart everything around. But time to get to it.
Time to get to it, baby.
Ball joint and pull in the head. Open up the engine mount so we can set the engine back down on the cradle. We're gonna leave the oil pan off, but we still need to set the engine down so we can get the head off.
Look at this sweet, sweet bottom end. The bottom end is always my favorite.
I love bottoms too. Wow, this thing's
Japan! 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 Japan!
Japan. Alright, so we're just pulling the head, manifolds, and everything. Turbo, all right out of this bitch. It already spun a 180, so it probably looks a little goofy.
There we go.
Cam, I mean, we took apart just as little as possible. Sweet, so we got the head off. I think the last thing I'd really like to do tonight, because it shouldn't take long at all, is just take out our connecting rod caps and just pull the pistons out and get a little picture of the carnage. But I mean, this is about as far apart as we need to come to get done what we set out to do. So once the new pistons show up, slap some rings on them.
Back in there, brother.
Throw them back in. Probably just run the same bearings that are in it now, unless they look really bad.
These are just dish pistons. They don't have any.
Yeah, I mean, there's no valve reliefs or anything. They're just dished. Everything up top looks fine, but
Yeah, that's good.
better safe than sorry. Rather than trash the block our first time out, you know, we'd rather just put some pistons in it that are not broken apart. We've made a lot of mistakes with this engine over the years, you know, but
This isn't one we want to make that might end the whole thing, you know?
yeah, and we're not really willing to invest in forged internals at this point. We have a whole nother engine that we want to use, but we are invested enough to spend a couple $100. It's worth spending a couple $100 on some just stock pistons to throw in it and just see what it'll do. We run virtually knock free now, so
That helps a lot.
so it's a little less concerning running cheap cast pistons whenever you're not knocking. So we're not really worried about that. I think we can dial into 7.0 without running super aggressive timing and stuff. So this will definitely be the right choice in the long run. So let's try to get those pistons out real quick and then we'll call it a night. Well, we went in to see where a washer and a snap ring came from, and we ended up pulling this bitch out right here. This is cylinder number 6. You see the deep skirt, this big notch that it has there that it has for stability, I reckon. Very tall piston, generally speaking. Well, if you look on this side, that whole sumbitch is missing. Huge chunk of piston's missing.
That's what we found in the oil pan.
This was in the oil pan. Actually, it wasn't even one of the initial things we were looking for.
I know.
We found it after we pulled the pan off, and you can see that it's been wearing in that spot a little bit. But overall, like, there's none of the rings are burnt or damaged at all. It feels like it's got 2 steel rings.
Huh.
It's just kind of weird. But the crown of the piston
Looks fine.
is clean and intact. Honestly, I think we've probably been driving around this way
for a while.
We've
been driving this way for a while.
Realistically, this was probably it's probably been this way. and that's why we're seeing wear in unusual spots. But it's really encouraging to see how good a condition the pistons are in.
Yeah, and look at those beefy ass rods too.
Yeah, the rods are pretty thick. I mean, they got studs from factory, and I mean, they're definitely significantly larger than the stock 2JZ GE pistons rods that we just took out of the 2J.
No doubt.
And so for what we're doing, this is pretty
just
stout.
fine.
So we're gonna be replacing this with a OE type replacement. We're gonna try. I mean, if I can find a used piston out of an L28et, that would be ideal.
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
I mean, something for around 30-40 bucks maybe. If anyone has one, definitely let me know. An alternative plan is we found a whole set of dish pistons for L28e from 82 to 83. So that's going to be all the F54 blocks. It's my understanding it's the same piston in turbo and non-turbo, I think. If you know better, definitely let me know.
Please.
If you have pistons, even if they're for an NA motor, if you have pistons that you're willing to let go for real cheap, let me know, because we are not trying
holla
to
at your
spend
boys.
a bunch of money on this engine. You know,
Holla at your boys.
we're trying to run 7.0 index for this year, and then we have another engine to put in it. So we just couldn't. We debated it for probably way longer than it should have taken us to decide, because we were considering sending it this way.
Yeah.
We considered getting forged pistons, spending a bunch of money, and making it strong. But at the end of the day, for what we have going on, what our plans are, just a stock piston, throw it in number 6. Never did find out where the snap ring and the washer came from.
But we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we got the whole head and everything off together, and there's not that many bolts.
Just gonna send it.
There's not that many fasteners in the engine.
Yeah.
It's a really simple engine. But anyway, that's gonna do it for tonight. We're gonna get this thing ready to roll onto the trailer. Tomorrow we'll put it on the trailer and get it stored away for the next week while I look for a new piston.
Yeah, baby.
So I came in to do ball joints.
Ended up pulling the top
oil
end off.
pan ended up pulling a piston out.